All right. Welcome, everyone, to Everything New York Giants. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants Fangirl on Instagram and TikTok. And today I have very special guests. You guys have heard me talk about the Giant Insider quite often. It's Chris Bizignano and Jerry Foley. They have a podcast called The Giant Insider. They also write for a magazine called The Giant Insider. And of course, are on Twitter, always providing us with all of the Giant updates. So thank you guys for joining me. Very excited to have you on. We have a lot of good things to talk about.
Yeah, nice.
It's a pleasure to be on.
So now that the contract is done.
Is there anything to talk about?
At first I was like, there's really not a lot of info.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there's a lot of info the last 24 hours, boy.
yeah, I think it's also going to blow up for a little bit, at least for the next week. There's going to be a lot more where that came from.
Well, it'll quiet down to free agency till Monday, unless Saquon gets done, which is a possibility the next week, but it's going to be a flurry of activity starting Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
And they start talking, legally start talking to free agents. And trust me, they've been talking to free agents already at the combine, I'm sure. And if anybody believes that they haven't been talking over that week in the combine about, hey, let me know, we're interested, just reach out to us and all that stuff, then you're very naive because that stuff goes on all the time at the combine. So, but next Monday it'll blow up and we'll see how aggressive Joe Schoen is in free agency. And he basically said that today in his presser with us that he's going to be pretty aggressive. So we'll see what happens.
I'm excited about that. So one thing that I was thinking about, because they announced today that they re-signed inside linebacker Jarrad Davis. So obviously outside from those three guys, there's still 18 other free agents. But from my understanding, if the Giants want to re-sign all or any of those guys, they would want to do that before March 15th, right? Because once March 15th hits and they open free agency, they can go anywhere. So with that being said, do you guys have any predictions? I know Joe Schoen specifically mentioned Gates, Feliciano, and Richie James. Outside of those guys, do you think that there's anyone else? I know we've talked a lot about Julian Love. We all would like him to stay. It's probably not realistic. Do you think there's any other guys? Like, I was kind of surprised by the Jarrad Davis thing. So what did you guys think? And do you think there will be other guys that they'll keep?
I'll go first on this one. Yeah, Casey Kreider is like, for me, just sign him because he's so good at his job. And we've seen before when you don't have a good long snapper. To be honest, Adrianna, I think a lot of it was a crapshoot. Like, okay, you got Barkley and Jones back, and then the rest of them, like, okay, Nick Gates is an easy one. But beyond that, you can make an argument either way for the rest of them. I was a little surprised at the Davis one as well. It's a laundry list of guys that really are 50-50 at best shots and probably less than that. So I would say Casey Kreider. I was even surprised to hear about Richie James, to be honest with you. Then it's like Darius Slayton, probably not. The list is so long and just unimpressive. Kreider's my number one out of the rest. I mean, outside of Nick Gates. So,
you got to look for like a Jihad Wood. You got to look for him, possible being back. I think Gates and Feliciano will be back. On pretty.
Oh, you think both?
I think both will be back on pretty. On those 1 year deals, maybe 1.5 million, right around those type deals. Just seemed like Shane wants Feliciano back. I know Dable's big on him. They like his presence in the locker room. They like his versatility. He could play center, guard, which they might need next year, and all that stuff. And Nick Gates is a guy they really love, as we all know. And I don't think, unless somebody comes in and gives him much more than they anticipate, I think they'll try to bring him back too. But Jihad Ward's a guy they really like too. Julian Love's a guy is probably not going to come back. He's probably going to out. He's going to get pretty good money from somebody, and I don't think the Giants are going to meet what he wants. I was talking to one of our podcasts that they talked over during the bye week about with Love's representatives, and Love's representatives came in with some ludicrous number, and they were like, okay, we'll talk after the season, but look, that's what happens in negotiations. It happened with Daniel. Daniel his side came in with a number, and they had to work it out, and and they got it worked out in the last few minutes with Daniel. So that's the way these things work. But I don't see. Here's the thing: is that McKinney's going to be. They're going to look to re-up McKinney. They're not going to pay two safeties big money. That's not the way this works, So those kind of low type deals, low money type deals. Feliciano Gates, I expect Jihad Ward maybe back another 1 year deal, and I think Casey Kreider, I think is a given.
How could you not?
800 plus, the long snapper. He's not an issue, So that's what I would look for.
So then, if they don't re-sign someone like Jamie Gillen, they're not going to waste a draft pick on a punter. So you think they go after someone like they pulled him in, I think, during camp last year. So you think they do something similar this year?
Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, they have, they probably won't draft him, but I think they're going to have 4 7th-round picks right now. Would it stun me if one was a punter? I wouldn't stun me. It would surprise me, but I would imagine they would go to, a free agent. I don't know if they would go in the draft for that unless they really, really love somebody. But yeah, I would expect it to come from free agency, Adrianna. That's me.
Yeah, me too. I mean, unless it's a couple of guys in college that I'm not even familiar with, like the Jets. The Jets, they used the 6th round or whatever it was on a man a couple of years ago. If there's somebody that's really, really, had a great year last year in college, and there's somebody, you could use a number 7 on him if you have 3 or 4 7s or 3. I don't know. I couldn't tell you that for a fact right now. If there's somebody, 2 or 3 guys in college that, hey, you know what, we could use a draft pick on this guy. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them, because I'm not familiar with the college punters. I'm not going to lie to you. So that's something that it could happen. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't expect to use these guys at free agency. I don't think they'll bring Gillen back, but he finished up pretty good too. So that's a possibility too.
Yeah, the days of drafting like a Brad Maynard in the 3rd round, that's not going to happen, obviously. So
I don't think you're going to see a Ray Guy again in the 1st round either.
Right. You're right.
Oh my God. Especially not with this team that needs about 5 other positions to be filled before a punter.
At least.
But we can get into Saquon in a second, but I want to talk about the running back position as a whole, because obviously we know that Saquon's going to be number 1. Now, I assume that they're not going to re-sign someone like Breida. So do you think that I personally love Gary Brightwell? I don't know why. I just feel like he can be a pretty good backup. I want to see more from him this year. Not a bad kick returner, but maybe he can improve on that. If Richie James can improve on that, I'm sure he can. But so with him and then Joshua Corbin on the practice squad, I think those are the only other running backs. So do you think they end up drafting someone? I know Jerry mentioned, and I feel the same way, that I would love to just sign Miles Sanders and Boston Scott just for the sole fact that we don't have to deal with them. But I mean, if they're not going to re-sign someone like Breida, they're obviously not going after someone like Sanders in free agency.
Yeah, now that Saquon's back, so I can see them drafting the guy in the mid rounds. No question.
Yeah.
Look, the Bills did it last year. They had Singletary, and they went out and drafted James Cook in the 3rd round. And this running back class is pretty deep, so I can see them doing it. And then there's other there's veterans out there to play, to sign up behind Barkley if they decide to go that route. But I can see them drafting one in the mid rounds, 4th round, 5th round. This class is, like I just said, this class is pretty deep, and this isn't, Barkley, I know is, he plays the majority of the snaps, but this league now is. You want a running back by committee. You want a couple of good backs. You want a couple of backs. You know what I mean? I don't expect to see Breida back, but I got to be honest with you. I didn't expect to see Jared Davis back either. I really didn't. And Shane signed him, and which means that Wink liked him, So, but we'll see. But I can see him going in the draft, definitely, without question. Don't forget. I mean, from what I'm hearing, there's a pretty good chance Barkley's going to get an extension. All right, but a couple of things. One, Barkley's had seasons where he's been injured. Now he's coming off a season where he wasn't injured, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be injured next year. Okay, so you want a couple of good backs. That's what the NFL is now. You want a couple of good backs. The NFL is no longer okay. We got our one back, and that's it. No. I mean, look at Dallas. They went out and got drafted Pollard. And now Pollard's that guy. And that's the way this league works. You like to have some depth in that position, and I think the Giants will address that.
Yeah, I like Brightwell as well, but I don't like him as a kick returner. So I think they would upgrade there, but I like him out of the backfield. I just don't know if they're going to trust him enough to be the number 2 guy, to be the one that spells Barkley. They give him a chance, obviously, but he's shifty for a big guy. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. But I would expect them to. Yeah, I like Boston's. I just want Boston Scott who doesn't score on us anymore. I'm just tired of Boston Scott. It has nothing to do with his first name either. I don't care about his first name. It could be New York Scott. I'd be like, yeah, I'd still don't want him to score on us. But he is kind of that guy. He's the type of player who could come in and spell Barkley. So, but I would expect them to maybe draft someone later. But it wouldn't stun me if they brought one of these guys in at a lower cost, obviously, because they're going to probably pay Barkley. So.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Boston Scott would be a nice guy.
Yeah, right.
He would be a nice guy. Miles Sanders is going to get starter's money.
Yeah.
Boston Scott is a guy that I tell you, man, he's a nice guy. You saw what he did with the Eagles all these years, for these years, and he would be a nice guy to supplement Saquon, no question about it.
Yeah.
Wasn't he used as a kickoff returner too, or am I thinking of Sanders?
No, he was.
No. I don't know if you remember last year's game when the Giants
6 yards.
Yeah, I mean the Giants cut a 21-0 lead to 21-7.
Yep.
And then the ensuing kickoff,
66.
Boston Scott brought it back into the Giants' territory. What was it? How many yards, Jerry?
66 yards.
Yeah,
oh my God.
And I remember specifically asking Dable about that in the presser after the game and he looked at me. he wasn't too happy. And I was like talking about Boston Scott. And he just looked at me. He goes, "Well, this thing's hot." I don't know if you remember. It was pretty funny. Jeremy might remember. I asked him about Boston Scott, and Dable just looked at me and goes, "Well, it happens." Whatever.
But, that happens when your special team sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's something he could be used to Boston Scott. I mean, that's a position like Jerry just said that they got to get a kickoff returner. Bradwell's not a kickoff returner.
Yeah.
They got to get a guy if the backup running back, like either a college kid or a free agent that can return kicks. That's what you're looking for. So.
Do you think we see Pimpleton do any of that? Maybe only during camp.
I don't know. It's funny, man. He was there every day during the weekend practice, when I was watching him. And they didn't go to him. They didn't go to him. I thought they might some point down the road. I thought they even might that last game that they were basically, they didn't care if they won or lost with the backup. They didn't. So there's something about they don't feel too confident with him, but he is in camp, right? He was signed to a future contract, and we'll see where that but I wouldn't pencil him in saying, okay, we got him. Heading into the 2023 season. But he's going to compete. He'll compete, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Going back to Saquon for a second. So especially after everything that Chris has been reporting, that, they're getting pretty close in numbers. What do you guys think the final contract looks like? Personally, I feel like it's the max that it would be is like a 3-year, 37.5. I feel like I just don't see them going over 13.5. I know everyone is saying, well, Jones got overpaid, and they can think whatever they want about that. But a quarterback is a different beast. And I just don't see them going to 14 or anything over that for Saquon. I will be shocked if that happens.
Yeah, Chris is going to know this a little better than me. I'm purely speculating based on his reporting and what I would assume he might get. But the offer was 12.5. He turned it down. Mm-hmm. The franchise is 10. I think you're right. I think it's going to be that 13 to 14. Yeah. I don't know, 3 years, 40 million, something like that. And half guaranteed or 25. I don't know, 25 guaranteed. I have no idea, but it's going to be around that. It's a little kind of semantics, like whether it's, 12.5 or 14 to me. It's like, well, it's 1.5 million more. It's not my money, so I'm spending it for them, but right. I think it's gonna be around there. I don't know.
Yeah, I look for that to be 40 million, a little bit more than Chubb range, 13.5, top off 14 maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of this comes down to guarantees too. Mm-hmm. How they spread it out. They're working on it. They want to keep Barkley. Shane said today, he met with him the other day and told him he's going to tag him if they got Daniel done. And then he met with Barkley today, and they're getting closer. But look, these things are not easy, right? We saw this with Daniel.
Yeah.
Now, a week ago when they first started meeting his agents, I mean, they were like, "Yeah, okay, we're going to start hammering this out. We're not really worried about anything." And then it's always okay. Well, we want this, and then they go back and forth. And it's even Shane talked about it today. He goes, I was on the phone constantly with Tish and Mara and Chris Mara. It's not an easy process, So Saquon is a running back, but he wants to be here. This is going to be a give and take, right? Saquon wants a certain number. He realizes he's probably not going to get that. So how do you do it? You give and take with certain signing bonuses spread out, all that stuff. Work, guarantees here. How much is guaranteed? You make it up here, and all that. So I think it'll get done. If not, Saquon's going to be unhappy, but there's plenty of time to work on it, But they want to get it done before free agency. That's the big thing, Yeah. And I tell you what, man, have you looked at Daniel Jones's contract? I put it on Twitter today. Did you actually look at Jones's contract yet?
I saw what was listed on Over the Cap.
Well, I tell you what, this is a really good deal for both sides. Mm-hmm. Joe Shane did a hell of a job, and I put something in. Shane mentioned it today, and I put something on Twitter like a couple of weeks ago. I said, "Look, don't mistake Joe Shane, his Maverick. His Tom Cruise looking. He's a handsome dude. He looks like a young Cruise a little bit. Matter of fact, we used to break his shops in training camp. We used to call him Top Gun when he used to walk by us.
That's awesome."
But when you meet him, hey, how you doing? Yeah, but I tell you what, he's a stubborn and he's a fiery guy. And Daniel Jones, an athlete first, they found that out this week. And Shane even admitted, he goes, I know I could be stubborn at times. He even admitted it today. So you see the numbers he got in his contract. I mean, it's pretty good. It's a win-win for both sides, man. Shane did a hell of a job because you look at it, right, Adrianna, it could be a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
It could be a 2-year deal, right? If they don't want to exercise that guaranteed money by March 15th of 2025, if not, it could be a 3-year deal, and there's no guarantees in that fourth year.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so if Daniel doesn't quite work out to the expectations they, what they're thinking, expect and Dave and all that, they could get out of this in a couple of years. And that fourth year, even if that happens, the dead money, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Joe Shane did a hell of a job, man. I looked at the numbers today and I'm like, wow, and all you're thinking about is what? Well, 2023. And look, what's his cap number next year? 19 million?
Yeah.
So, people, they just see that, that 4 years, 160. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's 40 million against it's not even all that matters is what's the cap hit. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to people today because it's the same thing. Like they didn't read, it's like reading a headline. They didn't read any further into the article and any other details. And what I was trying to explain to people is Shane said that Jones was going nowhere. So at the worst case scenario, he was getting tagged. So I'm like, well, if you look at it, he was going to get tagged at 34 million. Now his cap hit is only 19. We saved 13 million on the cap that now we can go use in free agency. So I don't know why anyone would be upset by it. But all they saw was 4 years, 160 and panic.
Yeah, and it's not 40 per, right? The dead cap hit in year 4 is like $9 million. So that is huge. It's funny, the dead cap this year is 82 million because you're not going to cut him this year. So it may as well be, you can make it $1 billion. They're not going to cut him. Yeah. But I mean, look, and what's funny is you talk to people after it happens, and the Giant fans who don't like him are just pissed off, and they're just like, well, it's 160 million's wasted, and it's like you got to look a little deeper into the numbers, guys, and like Chris reported last night, it's 19 million the first year, so we have flexibility. Giants have flexibility to go out and spend money, and Shane's indicated more than indicated they're going to spend money in free agency, so it's a great deal for everyone, and if it doesn't work out after year 2, then you have some flexibility to get out of it or restructure or do whatever. So genius move by Shane.
Yeah. Well, and my whole other argument too, I get it if you don't love Jones and you think that maybe we overpaid for him, whatever, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But when you look at the realistic only other option, and this is what I said to people is, okay, so here's our 2 options. You want Tyrod to be the starter next year, who's been a backup quarterback for a reason, number 1. And then number 2, you draft a rookie quarterback, which means we have to trade down because realistically, we're not getting the type of quarterback I would think we want to be our starting quarterback next year. And all I've heard from Giants fans for the last 5 years, myself included, is we're sick of losing. So you tell me that after watching Jones play the way he played last year and win us a playoff game, you're willing to give that up and go back to potentially losing for another year or two while we start over at the quarterback position? It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
What really annoys me are the detractors in the media, the national media, who talk about 15 touchdown passes, ignore the 7 running, ignore the 7 running. The 7 running still happened. Okay, it's 42 points. It still happened.
Don't count. It doesn't count.
Right. It's 800 yards rushing. Okay, and you fail to mention the receiving core that he had. The offensive line, while improved, they're not the 7 blocks of granite. Okay, they're still a work in progress. You know, you had Saquon, who once teams figured out we need to stop the run, the Giants had to adjust like 3 quarters through the year. I mean, these people who say this just look at the stats and say, "Oh, he's not worth $40 million a year." That's what pisses me off the most. Just the laziness of looking at the stats and trying to deduce if he's worth it or not based on that, rather than actually watching the games and understanding that he was probably the MVP of the offense. With all due respect to Saquon Barkley, he can make the argument that he was the MVP of the offense last year.
Right.
I'm going to clear something up for you, Adrianna, for the people, for your audience, and who's going to listen to this podcast. Okay. Joe Schoen did not give Daniel Jones this contract because, you know what? I don't know if we're going to find a quarterback next year. You know, I don't know if we could draft one. I don't know who's out there for agency. So you know what? Let's blow $80 million guaranteed on Daniel. We don't believe in him, but we're going to give him that money because we can't find anybody else. You know, I don't know if Tyrod could do it. No. They gave Daniel Jones this contract because they believe in Daniel Jones, and they believe Daniel Jones is going to bring them where they want to go. Okay, I'll tell you a quick story. Jerry knows this, but obviously it's the first time I'm talking with you. About halfway through the season, one of the games, I forget which home game it was, but Daniel came up big for them, right? He basically put the team on his shoulder. And I see Dave's in the locker room after the game. He's walking by. I say, "Yo, Dave's, come here." You know, and he comes over, and I go, "Yo," I said, "Friggin' Daniel, bro. He put the team on his freaking back today." And he looks at me and goes, "Chris, I love this kid." He goes, "I love him." He goes, "He does everything we ask." You know, and I said, and I looked at him, and I could tell 100%. That wasn't bullshit, man. He was 100% sincere. He goes, "I love this kid." You know what I mean? There was a presser once after a game when I said to Dave's, Dave, "Look, Daniel, you know, put the team on his shoulders. It looks like, you know." And he looked at me and he was like, "He's been doing that all year," you know? Mm-hmm. So the point being is that, you know, there's a couple of narratives out there. Well, you know, they can't get a quarterback next year, so we're going to blow all this money on Daniel because even though they don't really believe in him, but they might not be able to get a quarterback next year. So, you know, no, you know, they believe in Daniel Jones. They might turn out to be wrong, but are you going to doubt Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll right now? This is what I asked Giant fans like a week ago on Twitter. Like, is everybody doubting Joe Schoen now overnight? Are you doubting his talent evaluation? Are you doubting Brian Daboll? Because Joe Schoen wouldn't be doing this without Brian Daboll. Is everybody doubting Daboll now?
Right.
Okay. So when at the end of the year, or even during the year, you know, when Schoen and Daboll are talking, like, this is our guy, you know, what he's doing. You know, a guy wins a playoff game. You know, he plays great for them down the stretch. Forget about the Eagle game. What are you going to say? Oh, the Eagles. Okay. Well, Dan Marino could have been back in the pocket against the Eagles that game. And guess what? The Eagles are going to win that game 38-7, even with Dan Marino back there. Okay. So they talk, and this is our guy. That's how much they like him. And they feel that when they build up around him even more, Daniel's going to be even better. Okay. So that's the feeling. I mean, if just to clear it up to anybody who has any doubts about why they did this, or did they do it because they can't get a quarterback next year? No, they feel this is their guy. Okay, that's going to lead them to where they want to go. I don't know how much more you could.
Yeah,
say, right?
No, you're right, and you're right, Adrian. There's no backup plan for the people who don't like him. It's like, what are you going to do at 20? You're going to trade from 25 into 10 and give up a first, a second, a first, and a first, because that's what it would take to move up 15 spots. It would be absurd to move that. You have to give up so much. And then which one you taking? How do you know they're going to be there? It's so right. There's no Marcus Mariota. Is that your backup plan? Garoppolo? Like, who is it? There's none. Tannehill? It's comical. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
but here's the thing, just quickly, Adrian. Here's the thing is that if they thought he was a tomato,
they could let him walk. They didn't
thought
pick
he
up
was
his
some
fifth-year
tomato.
option.
Well, guess what? We're going to plan B. So we'll have to get a kid. We'll have Tyrod as a bridge guy. And either they make that blockbuster trade and move up, or whatever they have to. If they thought he couldn't do the job, guess what? Daniel will be hitting up the free agent market Monday. Okay? But no, they made sure he didn't hit free agent market Monday. They feel this is their guy. This is their guy. So,
yeah.
Hey, you could question it. You could second guess it. You might say these guys are crazy, whatever. But at what point right now is it fair to say, oh, Dable and Shane, I can't believe they're doing this. We don't have no faith in them now. I think you have to have faith in them. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. And look at what they've done. Look at what they have done when we were on our own, 5-yard line and it's 3rd and 8 and we're running a quarterback sneak. I mean, that's the football that we were watching for years before this came in. And all of a sudden we win a playoff game and everyone decides that a rookie quarterback is the answer. I mean, it's just insane. And the fact that they declined the 5th-year option. So like Chris said, they have no allegiance to Jones. If they really didn't like him, you think Joe Shane would be telling the media left and right that he loves Daniel, he's our quarterback, we're going to make it work, and go through 9 grueling days of negotiations if they really didn't want him here? It's just insane. I can't believe some of the things that I've seen on the internet over the last week about this.
Well, yeah, I went. Oh, excuse me, Jerry.
Yeah. Okay.
I went
Sorry.
I went after Robert Griffin last night on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, when he had the stats between him and
Robert Griffin's putting it out there that the only reason the Giants did this because they were afraid somebody else was like they were afraid he was going to hit the market and somebody else was going to sign him. No, they did this, Robert, mediocre quarterback Griffin. They did this because they believe in Daniel Jones that much. You think they're going to give him this contract just we don't want him to hit the market because I mean, come on, they did this because this is another take of somebody who's never around the building, who never speaks to anybody, has no connection to the Giants, like so many other people on social media. They're putting these takes out there and they're talking about what Shane's thinking and this and that. Like, dude, who have you spoken to that they're thinking like that? I see it all the time. I laugh my what off. It was another take like, Rob, what are you talking about? No, they've been talking about this kid from the middle of the season on. Do you know that? Have you spoken to anybody in the building? You put something on Twitter right now with all your followers. Where'd you get that from?
Right.
Because you're pissed off because Lamar Jackson is not getting his money. Okay. So what are we doing here? What's nobody's comparing. I mean, what you're seeing is idiotic. That's why, Adrianna, when I was a kid, somebody told me a long time ago in Brooklyn, don't acknowledge a garbage can. Just walk right by
it. I like that.
I can't follow. I don't know how to follow that. No, I was just going to say what I'm surprised by are some of the players around the league that are commenting negatively. Like,
man,
did you see that guy from the Bears?
That's somebody's right. That's somebody's contract. That's their money. Like, you don't do that.
You don't do that.
You can have your own opinion quietly, but man, you're commenting on your peers. Like, it's kind of your brotherhood a little bit, right? It's you're all part of the same league, and you want to. Every time somebody signs a contract, the next one's going to be higher. And why would you do that? Why would you do that to someone you play with? Like, that's shocking. I've never seen it like this either, by the way, with Jones. It's worse with Jones than anyone else. And the point about Lamar, like, man, like, are we not allowed to question the fact that you're going to have to give up 2 draft picks to get him? Also, I mean, word out of Baltimore from more than one person is they weren't crazy about his attitude towards the end of the season. Like, are we not allowed to question that? Like, maybe that's a thing, guys. I don't know. It seems a little hypocritical with what Jones is going through.
Yeah. From the years that I've been watching football and been on social media, I just feel like he has had it the worst by far of any player that I've ever seen in the NFL. And the worst part is he's getting it from his own fan base. I mean, it's one thing when you have to deal with it from the media and from other players who, have no idea what they're talking about, or, they can say whatever they want. But the fact that so many Giants fans allegedly watched the entire last season and are still talking shit about him, it is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I'm not as surprised about the Giant fans as I am the players around the league, to be honest with you. Like Giant fans, like if you associate with him with Gettleman and you hate Gettleman, then you're just going to hate Daniel Jones. And I don't know, other than a Super Bowl MVP and victory, which you didn't even do for Eli in some cases, I don't know if there's any convincing. But when players around the league are saying, I can't believe you paid this guy this much, it's like, wow, that's a new thing. I've never seen that before. And are we going to see that more with other quarterbacks and other players? That's a bad precedent. But I think Giant fans who just don't like him are never going to like him no matter what he does. He could put up 40 touchdowns, and it's because, he had DeAndre Hopkins. Sorry, right. Chris. Or we went first round with a wide receiver. Or his offensive, look how good his offensive line is. It doesn't matter what he does. It's because of everything else that he's doing this. So they just they tailor their argument to fit their narrative.
Yeah, he'll never get any credit.
Yeah.
It's very similar to another quarterback that played here.
Right.
Mr. Eli Manning.
Totally.
I remember him before he won the Super Bowl. It was the same thing. Get rid of him. He stinks. This guy will never work out. Boom, 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 boom. So we'll see how it plays out. But you know what? I remember Eli Manning's first playoff game. They got destroyed. It was embarrassing.
23-0.
Daniel Jones' first playoff game, they won. And I'm not comparing. I'm just saying, at least Daniel went in there, and he won his first playoff game. So it's a positive, So we'll see how it plays out.
It's going to be interesting. All right. Jerry mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. So I've been getting that question a lot.
Well, in fairness, I mentioned it because Chris mentioned it, but go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to talk about a wide receiver in free agency in general, because of course we're still hearing the OBJ stuff. And, Shane said today that they were going to be pretty active. So my first choice personally is someone like Tremaine Edmonds. I cannot watch us play the Eagles and just get run all over again. It's just horrific. So the signing of Jarrad Davis was a little like, oh boy, is that going to affect us signing a linebacker in free agency? But it's him and Darian Beavers, who's coming off an injury. McFadden. So I feel like another veteran in the mix would be great. Someone like Edmonds. But out of all the positions, do you think that Shane is leaning more towards corner or wide receiver, linebacker? I know we've talked a lot about the O-line.
Well, it better be linebacker or Wink's going to beat the crap out of him in the back room one day in the cafeteria or something. I could tell you that because Wink was fuming from day one about his inside linebackers. Look, the inside backers are probably not even on the roster yet. Okay. Beavers will be in, well, we don't know. He flashed at times in training camp, but we don't know what he's going to be yet. We'll have to see it, when he comes back. But, Davis is a guy, okay, he's a rotation, we'll see, get him in there, compete, all that. But the inside, the guys who will be starting probably aren't on the roster yet. I expect either, one's going to be a free agent. It'd be interesting to see if Joe, eyes Tremaine big time. He knows him from Buffalo, obviously. The Bills already said that they can't afford him. The Bills can't afford him right now. They didn't tag him, So it'll be interesting to see if they go after him. And I expect that to be addressed in a draft. Maybe even number one. Maybe even a number one pick. I know everybody believes, it's going to be receiver for sure. Mm-hmm. Don't be so sure about that. It could be, obviously everybody's been leaning towards wide receiver. That's a position of need. But so is a run stop and linebackers, that is too. So I think the two guys, you'll see next year in September, the first game, Aziz, Thibodeau. And I think you're going to see two guys that aren't on the roster on the inside.
Yeah, Chris and I both said Tremaine Edmonds as well last night on our podcast. He's our number one choice in free agency. But the Davis just seems like a competition type of thing, back end competition type of signing. I guess they liked him enough to bring him back. Yeah. But there's also corner. There's another defensive tackle, right? There's a lot this team needs. Wide receiver, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what he tackles in free agency and then how that plays out in the draft and how it affects the draft. But I would love to get an inside linebacker that's signed to like a 4-year deal, 5-year deal, and just kind of, really cements the middle, because the Giants were atrocious against the run last year. And Beavers also, he had the torn ACL too. He flashed, but he's coming back from an ACL injury, but which they can do now. But
he'll be in the mix. Yeah, he'll be in the mix.
Yeah, right.
But you just can't sit here and go, okay, we got Beavers.
Right.
Yeah, we're good at one spot. No, absolutely not. He's gonna have to prove it next August.
Yep.
Yeah. So some of the, I want to go back to the O-line for a second too. Do you think that, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Kelsey, whether or not he's going to retire, but I know there's some other veteran centers maybe out there in free agency. You think they go after someone like that, or he'll stick with the draft if they re-sign Gates and Feliciano?
Yeah, I think he's going to go in the draft. But they might bring in a veteran free agent. There's really not much, there's a couple of guys, but there really isn't much out there. Kelsey, forget about it. He either retires or he comes back to the Eagles. He's not going to be on the market, So there's a couple of guys somewhat decent, but I don't know if I don't know if he's going to go there free agents. I really don't. I think he's going to address that in the draft. I think he'll bring back, like I said, he'll bring back either one or both Gates and Feliciano, not necessarily as starters, but guys that will compete. And we'll take it from there. We'll see. But I expect him to address that in the draft.
Yeah, I don't know about free agency, but he also, and not to get away from center, but you also have guard, right? And what are they going to do at guard? They're so high on Azudu, right? And McKethan. Like, to me, these are extra draft picks that we're going to bring in. So even if they draft another guard, say, or bring in a guard, you have all this depth behind now. All of a sudden, all these guys were hurt. They had horrible luck last year with their draft class and injuries. So I think center, I agree with Chris. I think center will probably be something they address in the draft and maybe earlier too. Feliciano would be nice to just kind of nail it down. But you would like to have that center that, is going to be your guy, like Thomas is the guy at left tackle for the next 10 years. And God willing, Neal will be the right tackle for the next 10 to 15 years. So.
Now, some of the guys that are on the roster, like Kenny Galladay, who we know are getting cut, do you think guys like Darnay Holmes and Shane Lemieux are going to be here next year? If it was up to me, they would not be, but I don't know.
Yeah, you expect somebody to get it before Monday to get cut. I would cut Holmes, pick up another $2 million. I would. I don't expect Lemieux back either. No, I don't. Holmes would be the question. We'll see what they do with him. But they might keep him. I'm not saying they're going to cut him. I would. To me, he's, get him out of there.
I'm
not crazy about him. I'm sick of the yellow flags around his ankles every day.
Yeah, he's regressed too since his rookie year. To me, it's you can replace him with somebody in the draft or free agent. I think McLeod could be better in the slot than Darnay Holmes, to be honest with you. But yeah, somebody like Lemieux is interesting because you still don't know. Like he just
gets hurt.
Right. He's always hurt. He was good at pass blocking. He was good at one or the other. I don't even remember. It's been so long, right? But he was bad at the other. I think he was bad at run blocking.
He was bad at pass pro.
Right. Okay. So he's better at run blocking. Right. It's been that long since we've seen him. I knew he was better at one. So it's like, what are you going to do with him? Is he just going to be a reserve? And at this point, just draft another one and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't expect him back. And like I said, this McKethan kid, they were pretty high on before he got hurt. They kind of liked what he was doing,
Yeah.
So it's like Jerry just said, it's like a draft pick here. He didn't play all last year. He blows out his knee in training camp. And now it's like a draft pick. Okay, bring him in here. He hasn't played a snap, so let him compete, So, and then obviously Josh Ezekiel was another kid they kind of like. And he's going to be in there competing. So, and then they're going to bring in, they might bring in a veteran free agency. We'll see. And I think they'll address it in the draft. So they'll be all right, hopefully. Hopefully they'll be all right. They need an upgrade in the interior of the line. And that's center and left guard. And, Shane knows that. So,
yeah. And I keep forgetting that Matt Pert is on this team. Do you think
so do we. Yes.
Do you think he's still here next year?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't know. Flip a coin. I don't know.
Yeah, he'll compete for that swing tackle.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think he'll compete for the swing tackle. We'll see. I think he'll be here. Okay. He'll be competing. Whether or not he makes the final 53, I don't know, but he'll be in there. He'll be in there competing.
Yeah, he's the Jared Davis of our offensive line. Like it's we'll see what happens. Then maybe he does something, but like Chris said, he'll be competing for a spot, but whether he makes it or not, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, right now he's the swing tackle. So.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going with Jack Anderson or You know, what the hell else we're missing?
They still have Tyree Phillips.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Tyree Phillips.
Tyree Phillips.
Actually, Tyree Phillips will be the swing tackle right now, and then Per to compete, and then we'll see what they bring in.
Oh man, I know you
make
guys
you feel comfortable.
I feel great about it. It's like the never-ending.
You went like
problem.
this, Adrianna. You went, oh man.
A little worried about it. What do you think is going to happen with the Leo Williams restructure? Because I was just thinking about the D-line. I know on your podcast, you guys talked about whether or not they should go for another edge because Aziz has been a little unreliable. I mean, I think that they're going to restructure Leo, but do you think that it's a 2 or 3 year deal? I know Shane was very anti for a while, kicking the can down the road, but I think after Leo said he was willing to take a pay cut to stay with Dexter, that it maybe feels better about reevaluating that.
Joe, you want to jump on it?
Yeah, I'll try it. First off, the edge is more of a luxury need, if that makes sense. It's a need, but it's not the primary one. I was just saying if somebody was out there that came for the right price, I would go for it. Like maybe Leonard Floyd, come a little cheaper than he would have a couple of years ago. I wouldn't mind that. And the question mark is Aziz. I mean, they're investing in this kid, but at the same time, he can't stay healthy. And Chris mentioned Jihad Ward. I had him coming back too. He slipped my mind. I actually wrote I would re-sign him, but I think you need someone else. You need another person because you're going to lose Zimenez because it's just not worth re-signing probably. So they got to bring someone in there. But yeah, I would imagine they're going to do something with Williams just because his cap hit is so big this year, and it frees up some more money to spend. It depends on who they're and it depends on who they're eyeing in free agency. Like if they're looking at these guys in free agency and say, you know what, we can fit all these guys in. It's going to be interesting to see if he still does a restructure with Williams, because then he might say, oh, you know what, I don't need to restructure him. Yes, it's a big hit, but if he sees guys and says, you know what, I want to bring this guy in, this guy in, this guy in, potentially this position, then he restructures. Then you know how he's going to be even more active in free agency. So I imagine he's going to restructure. That's my guess.
The only thing with that is that Leo's deal next year is voided. So this is really his last year of his contract. So you can't restructure Leo this year. So what you're going to have to do, you're probably going to have to extend him another year, then make that maybe 2025 voided, and then bring down. So you give him another year on the books, and then you bring down that number for this year. You know, it's not just like you kind of forget. I forgot it too. You know, that this is really his last year of the deal. So you can't restructure a guy in his last year of his deal. Next year they voided. I don't know if you remember, Adrianna, but I think was it last season or something they extended him and they made it last year voided. He got more money up front, the whole deal. Anyway, so they're going to look to do something with Leo, but they're going to have to extend him in a way. They're probably going to have to give him another year. Maybe 2025 is voided. 2024 he makes a certain amount and bring down this year's cap number. That's what they're going to have to try to do. And they've talked about doing it. It was the funniest thing because Leo, at first at his locker the day after the Eagle game, was like, "Oh no, I'll be open to that." And then he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't know." He caught himself like, then he realized, "Oh shit, oh crap, my agent's gonna freaking scream at me," you know. It was pretty funny. We actually laughed at Leo. It was pretty funny that he that he caught himself like, "Oh well, no, you know." But we'll see what they do with him. Because they I think his cap number is 32 this year.
32.5 or something ridiculous.
I mean, you know, that's a high number. And they're going to want to free up some of that for free agency. Because, you know, Shane talked about it. They're going to have to they want to bring in a few guys for that defensive line via the draft, via free agency, you know, veterans, whatever it might be. They got to beef up that defensive line because they were not happy. Look, Dexter Lawrence, I believe, played 82% of the snaps last year.
Wow.
Can't have that. He's too big of a man to play 82% of the snaps. Can't he? That has to come down. Leo played 70-something%. Those numbers have to come down. You know, I'll give you a prime example. Look at the Eagles, what they do up front. Those guys are not, you know, the Fletcher Coxes, the Hallgrave, they were not playing 82% of the snaps. They were rotating. See, and the Giants, you know, they want to get that little rotation going in. Get the, you know, veterans, a young kid, veteran, rotate. You can't have Dexter playing 82% of the snaps. Just can't have it, you know. And they want to get that down. So that's going to be addressed by Shane.
And funny you should bring up the Eagles because they've made it clear Hargrave will not be back. So
yeah,
he's going to get big bucks, that dude.
I know. I know a perfect rotation he could be part of.
Yeah. But he's going to get big bucks. We have two guys. Well, Dex is going to get extended. He's going to get extended probably this off season. Yeah. Shane's been working on that. He's mentioned it. Yeah. We've been talking his reps about getting an extension done with him. And Leo, they're gonna have to try to do something with that. Hey, they might not. You got to remember something, Adrianna. They might not. It might not work out with Leo. And guess what? He might be playing in that 32 tag. That number, that 32 number cap number this year. Oof. So they're gonna have to work around. Hey, listen, that's the way it goes sometimes, man. Depending. So we'll see.
Yeah. I was thinking last year that I couldn't believe that he's never been injured in his entire career. And his one of the years he's with the Giants, he had multiple injuries.
Who, Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah, he missed a few games.
Of course, it's only with the Giants.
Yeah, but it
was bound to happen, though.
Yeah, but he's here now? 3 years? Right? 2.5, 3. What is he here now, Leo? 3
years? I think what did he sign, a 4-year deal?
I remember when, and you know what? I know he missed a few this year. He missed a couple games this year, and he played hurt. Let me tell you something. He was hurt from the middle of the season on when he hurt that. He said it was a stinger. It was actually a nerve issue up in his shoulder, neck area, and I remember a few times talking to him on the side in the locker room. I remember a few times saying, "Yo, Leo, how you doing?" He goes, "I'm playing." He goes, "But I won't be 100% to the off season." He goes, "I needed the rest." Because, "But I'm going to play." He goes, "I'm playing." So that dude plays hurt, man. And so for him to miss a few games, that guy was really hurt because that dude suits up, man. He plays. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's bound to happen, Adrian. These things happen. So
yeah, definitely. All right, I got one more question for Chris, and then we'll wrap up. Have you heard anything about the new turf?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I haven't. I know there was a few. They had a few sample sizes in the parking lot, in the media parking lot for a long. How I know that? Because I was like a 3-year-old kid running on both.
Okay. Were you stopping? Did you stop and go?
When I used to go to Jeremy, I was. Don't laugh. I was actually going to put it on. I was actually going to put it on Twitter one day. That I said, you know what? These people go think I'm insane. Probably the Giants too. So I used to go out to my truck after the media session, and I used to cut on one turf, cut on the other turf. And say, okay, I like this one better. But no, Adrian, I don't know. I don't know which one they actually settled on yet, if they even did yet. But they had players. They had this for the players, so they would go out there and test it. We'll see.
I'd be like, Chris, just don't run straight. Cut, stop, go. See if your ACLs explode or not.
I was stopping, cutting. And
nice.
Somehow or another, my ACL is intact. So
nice.
Do you know if they had Jets players tested out too? Because I am dying to know why we are the problem, not the Jets, with the injuries.
I'm not sure if they had Jets players, but I'm sure they did.
Okay.
Since those buffoons play on the same turf, I'm sure. I'm sure they did have it. And they're gonna have to come to an agreement, because the Jets play there too.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to see what Shane comes up with their research on why our injuries are so much worse than other teams too. I think he said they were going to dive into it this offseason. So I wonder if he'll ever share.
It was interesting, with that survey that they leaked, the players did, all the teams did. The Giants were highly rated with the medical staff. The players gave them a thumbs up, man. So, I know people like to say, well, they got to change Ronnie Barnes. They got to change this medical guy. What's going on here? Don't know, but all I know is the players are very happy with the medical personnel and Ronnie Barnes and the training staff because they just did the survey and they got like an A. They got an A from the players. And that was strictly from the players. It wasn't fans. It wasn't GMs or all that stuff, so.
Right.
So interesting. I don't know. I think the turf has a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Bad luck has a lot to do with it. And then they're going to explore how they could try to cut it down. We'll see.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I assume, they're going to have to get it in before OTAs, or I guess maybe they have until camp before they.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure. Well, this is going to be for the stadium. So OTAs, that'll be in the field house or outside. This is for the stadium. They won't be on the stadium to next September. So they'll decide and they'll put the new turf in and they'll spend millions, whatever the hell it's going to be. And we'll see if, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. You know, I kept saying about the people who were so upset that Jones got overpaid and, you know, he should have only gotten 35 or whatever, whatever. And I just said, you know what? It's not your money.
It should have.
Everyone was saying that he was probably going to get anywhere between 35 and 39. And now he got 40. He got $1 million more than the high bucket of what everyone was thinking. And
yeah, I don't know. You know, look, and like I said before, all that matters is what's the cap hit.
Right.
So, I mean, are people going to be upset now next year? Well, I saw people on Twitter last time when I put that his cap hit for 23 is going to be 19 million. People were ecstatic. Wow, my God, are you kidding me, Chris? I can't believe that. Is that what it? Yeah, I said that's why I've been telling everybody. You know, people like you said, like we talked about before. People see 40 million. Oh my God, it's 40 million. Oh my, what are we going to do now? We have no money. No, it's not 40 million on a cap next year.
Right.
You know, and then the year you got to remember something. You know, in 2024. I think his cap number goes up to 47 or 45, right? But the salary cap is also going to explode when an Amazon deal kicks in. So that's going to be it's going to be a big increase in the cap, you know. So they'll make, and then I think the next year is 37, something like that. And you know, and look, here, I'm going to say this again, okay? If they go to the playoffs again and Daniel Jones plays really well, if he has a really good season, and say they go to playoffs, they win another playoff game of that, and Jones, is anybody going to care?
Right.
Is anybody going to care that Daniel's making 19 million on the cap, 160, 80? Is anybody going to care? This is what I said about the head coach. Like when people were complaining about, you know, every 2 years we're firing a coach. Okay, and John Mara can't get it right. Oh my God. I said, okay. I said, but if this is before the season, I said, if Brian Dable works out, right? Is anybody going to give a crap about
right? No one cares how many coaches it took to get here.
No, you know, so nobody's going to care. You know, like Daniel. Daniel really turns out to play. You know what they feel his contract. You know, people. Oh, he's not going to play up to his contract. Well, whatever that means. You know, if he plays really well and the Giants are a playoff team again, and this kid looks like he's going to lead them to the next level. Who cares? Who's going to care? You know? What is Dak Prescott? Isn't he getting 40 million too? You know, it's right around his contract, right? That's what he got. I mean, you know, and people are down on him in Dallas, right? Oh, he'll never win a big one. You know, he'll never, not down on him. Jones is crazy to give him that money, right? So nobody's going to care if the guy's playing really well, man. So that's what they expect, you know, and we'll see.
Exactly.
He's got to get him help though. You know, they know that he needs help. You know, we can't go into a season with Richie Jameses and, you know, and guys like that. He needs help. He needs an impact. You know, he needs solid receivers. You know, he needs like another receiving tight end, the offensive line. You know, what did they give up last year? They gave up over 40 plus sacks, right? 50 sacks they gave up, something right about it. I forget the number, 48, whatever it was.
I think
I can't have that. And this is with a guy that escaped about 100 more other sacks with his legs.
Yeah. Imagine if he couldn't run.
I mean, can't have.
He would have gotten murdered back there.
Yeah, they know that. You know, they know they have to upgrade. You know, look. The Giants finished 9-7-1, right? And they went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. But don't be fooled. Don't think Joe Shane and Brian Dable are fooled. And what I mean by that is that don't think they're looking at this roster saying, "Oh, we're only one guy away. We're only two guys away. Well, we're good. You know, we can make a run at the NFC Championship." No. They know they have to upgrade big time in certain positions. They know that, you know, because they also know that they were 9-7-1 last year. They could easily be 7-10 next year. Okay. So they're not fooled by anything. Trust me. You know, so they know they have to upgrade and upgrade big time. And they're going to have some money to do it. They're going to have another draft class to do it. And we'll see. Have faith in them, right?
Exactly. Well, and that's what I was wondering when I was asking about free agency, a linebacker versus receiver, because Shane specifically mentioned in his presser that we need to be able to stop the run. And you don't just get a number one wide receiver and all of a sudden make the playoffs. There were plenty of number one wide receivers at home. So I have also tried to say that to fans that if they don't draft a wide receiver at number 25, don't freak out. We're not a wide receiver away from a Super Bowl team. We need a few other guys in here to help us out.
Right. And they were very, very bothered by the lack of stopping the run last year. Very bothered by it. They have to address it. And I'm telling you, man, that is their goal we have to get some run stopping guys in here. We don't give a. It ain't gonna matter. It's not gonna matter how many number one receivers we have. If we can't stop the run and get the offense on the field, it doesn't matter if you have Jerry Rice on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when Shane said it. Hey, this is a team. We have to build a team, not just a receiver position. You know.
Yes.
I know Joe. That's his way of saying everybody relax. Don't think we're just gonna focus on wide receivers. We're not. You know, we could win. You could win. Other ways. We have to stop the run. Guess what? How about a cornerback? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what you got a Dory coming back, and then what? Who else? I mean,
Aaron Robinson, maybe.
I mean, Robinson can't stay healthy, right? Cordell Flott, promising young kid. Don't get me wrong, but you don't know. You know? So will they attack that and feel like that? Like this? There's some corners on this free agent market that have played man press a lot, that fit Wink's system. That I can see them bringing in here. Will they spend money in that position? We'll see.
Yeah. Some Giants fans are high on a Bradbury reunion. You don't see that happening, do you? I don't see it. But
I don't see that happening. First of all, he's a second team All-Pro this year. He's going to get real big money, James.
That's what I thought too. And we can't afford that.
I just don't think they'll go that. I think that ship has kind of sailed and not that there was any bad blood between Bradbury and the Giants. I know for a fact there isn't any bad. But I don't think they'll go. I think he'll be one of the top guys getting big money. I don't think they're going to do that. No, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. All right, one more. If with your Golden Domer Michael Mayers, you think if he's there, if he happens to be there at 25, you think the Giants pick him?
No, I think they'll go other position. I think they'll go another position. Yeah, I think they will. Unfortunately, But Shane always talks about, they have their board.
Right.
It's next up.
Mm-hmm.
It's next up. It's not position of need. It's the next guy on their board,
Yeah.
So if at 25, he's number 25 in their board, whatever it might be, I don't see that happening. But in my own sick mind, I would love to see it happen, but no, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I got my eye on Benjamin Morrison. I'm waiting on him to come out.
Are you?
He was looking pretty good. Yeah, I watched a couple Notre Dame games this year, and I went to University of South Carolina, so that was a really good game. But I was really impressed with him. But I think he's only a freshman, so
I think he's
probably
freshman,
not. Yeah, he's got some time.
Well, the kid from Georgia, Brock Bowers, he'll be coming out next year. He's phenomenal, man. So he'll be the big tight end coming out in next year's draft. So, we'll see what happens. Michael Mayer. I gotta be honest with you, I wasn't crazy about the combine he had. But if you watch him in games, he's the type of guy. He's got that it about him. He's the guy you want. He's the type of guy you want. Yeah, and that's another position too with the Giants. Bellinger, nice little tight end, but he's not you like to see an upgrade there too. Like he's not like a 20-yard seam guy down. Be interesting to see what they do with that too, at the tight end position.
Yeah.
They're gonna have what? I think they have 9 picks, and they're probably gonna get a couple of comp picks, and they're probably gonna wind up with like 11 picks. So we'll see.
I'm glad. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
Outside of quarterback and running back.
Yeah. But but like you once again saw in the playoffs, right? You have to win the trenches, man.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win the trenches. And I remember when the Chiefs were playing the AFC Championship game, and the Eagles were going to the Super Bowl. And I think it was Jerry. A couple people asked me, you had to see the Bengals or the Chiefs play the Eagles, and I was like, the Chiefs. Why? Well, besides Mahomes, they have a better offensive line. And guess what? Their offensive line gave up 0 sacks in the Super Bowl. 0. Yeah. To a team that came in with 70 plus. Okay. The Eagles went into that game with 70 plus sacks, So you got to get that offensive line, the trenches. You got to build it up, man. They got to get that offensive line going a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Definitely see what they do. I hope Azu can be a helpful piece this year. Find out soon enough.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll wrap it up here. It's almost an hour. So thank you so much for joining. You guys, if you want to check out the Giant Insider, you can find them on Twitter. You can subscribe to the magazine on magster.com. And their podcast is The Giant Insider.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure, man. It was nice rapping with you. Nice rapping.
Thanks for joining. Maybe we'll recap after the draft. Can talk all about free agency and what the final team might look like.
Yeah. Just reach out, By that time, Aaron Judge probably will blow out his knee in training camp and in spring training, and the Yankee season will be over.
I'm going to spring training next week.
Oh,
and yes, just for the weekend. But I had made a joke last year that I'm bad luck when I'm at MetLife. Every time I've been there in the last couple of years, the Giants have lost. So I purposely didn't go to the Colts game because I was like, I'm superstitious like Jerry. I don't actually believe that if the Giants lost, it's because I'm there. But part of me is a little like, maybe I'm bad luck. So now you got me thinking, if I go to spring training, Aaron Judge is going to injure himself because I'm there.
I got to ask, because I saw you at training camp last year a lot. Were you at any of those practices that guys got hurt, like McCaffrey, or were you at any of those?
I might have been. I was there the day of the fight. But I was there probably like 6 or 7. So probably.
No, I know you were there a lot. So I'm asking if you were you there. I was going to say you better stay the hell away from training camp now too.
I might have to. I felt like this was going to be a new year and I was going to start fresh at MetLife. So, right. But if I go to one of the first games and they lose, then I will fully believe that I am the reason why.
Well, you should go check out the Yankees, because I'm sure you're going to be loving the fellow Italian, Anthony Volpe, the shortstop that's coming up for the Yankees. It looks like a phenom. So
a lot of good talk about him. I do love Rizzo. I was really disappointed in Gallo. Speaking of another Italian, very disappointed in him. Was expecting a lot.
Yeah. So, hey, it was great. We'll talk soon.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
You got it. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.